Coming up 19, the shades are all open. 320. And crossing the finish line. Up next, we have our third game of final four. Is clear to start one for our final four run. Into 14. Through the chicane. Into the heart. Through 20. And crossing the finish line. Just about 6 minutes to our first consecutive flag.
The first week of the IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships. We're at Lake Placid, New York, and we are heading into the second day's action of the two-man bob. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York, to Mount Van Hoevenberg, where they have been sliding for 95 years down this mountain. Martin Haven and Greg Cackett alongside me. And Greg, heading into the third heat, this is often where we see the field spread out, but our top three, perhaps as we might have expected, all from Germany.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a classic German 1-2-3 going here, but there are still shouts for the medal. We've got Frankie Del Duca sitting in fourth on home ice with stunning pushing yesterday from Chuck Volker. Great drives from Frankie, and the kit's running well, so Adelman has got to keep himself honest here. And yeah, as you said, for the top two, classic Friedrich v Lochner, it is tight at the top. And yesterday we saw those booming starts from Fleisch at 5:05 in that second heat. However, Hansi wasn't quite getting it right out of corner two. We'll watch that today. Watch for skids out of corner two. It wipes your velocity away. He has to keep that on board if he's going to be able to stand a chance of beating Mr. Friedrich, the Usain Bolt of bobsleigh, coming up now. And big pushes from these guys too. Now, he said Schuller was shaking his head going into the finish line yesterday. We weren't sure what that was about, because when you see a number one on the clock, you tend not to shake your head.
Yeah.
I think he felt maybe the push wasn't quite there, and they were a few hundredths off. So they will be looking to win the battle at the top, and Friedrich will be looking to win the battle at the bottom, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Alex Schuller there on the right-hand side was not happy with either of their starts. He said it just wasn't what we should have done, and obviously getting beaten away by anybody else is unacceptable.
Yes, of course.
And Friedrich was 200ths off the track record in the first heat, and I was talking to him about that yesterday afternoon, and he said it should have been track record. The ice was fast enough, but because it was damp and then froze the day before, they had sanded the roads, which is fine, which is good for traction and everything, so we can get up the mountain. The problem was the wind. The wind whipped the sand up, and he said the track was really sandy, and as a result, when you're diving off 10, you're not feeling the push that you're expecting. And he said if it hadn't been sand on the road and blown in, or if there hadn't been the wind that blew it into the track, it would definitely have been a track record. So the ice temperature is pretty much what it was yesterday, -6. Air temperature -4, so just a little bit less bitter than yesterday. The key element, though, is that there is very little wind at all. So we might still be in track record territory. And there you see Adam Ammour and Big Benny Hertel. You saw Hansi Lochner walking down towards the start. They're all getting ready. Mihai Tentea, everybody limbering up ready for the start. There's been a few brakeman changes a little further down the order. But it's interesting, Frank Del Duca, Jeff Gadbois, both in the top 8. And we probably should have seen Chris Horn in there as well. He crashed in the first heat when he was 5th fastest, and was 5th fastest in the second heat. So it's well worth watching Chris Horn. He's coming up later in the show, later in the runs, and he has a change of brakeman as well. Hunter Powell in for Josh Williamson. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Second day's action from the IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Championships in Lake Placid. Francesco Friedrich, our overnight leader, with Alex Schuller behind him, ready to get us underway. A 5:13 and a 5:09 start in the first two pushes. Martin Haven and Greg Cackett watching the action with you.
All right, here we go, 5:04. Now that's setting the standard for day two. So like we said yesterday, 5:13 getaway for these guys. When the start records are 4:96, we know the start ramp is not running as quickly as it has been in the past, but that is a much better start for the boys. And I missed him out of corner two, so hopefully he's kept his speed on board. But coming into the Devil's Highway now, the rock and rolling ride through here looks pretty clean so far.
Yeah, look pretty good up top, and it's very hard to get a perfect run down here. It doesn't exist according to the Americans, probably doesn't exist according to Francesco Friedrich as well. So what you're doing here is trying to make as few mistakes as possible. Shoots the chicane nicely, just came a little left into 14 maybe, into 17, but down through the heart, 18, 19, and then climbing up through corner 20, beyond where Skeleton stops.
There you go.
It's a new track record, 54.60.
100.
Yeah, well, he was 200ths over yesterday, and he takes the track record from Pierre Ludus and Giulio Zardo, and that's a major track record that has stood since the 16th of February 2003.
Wow, over 20 years old. That's massive. This again, like you said, there's no such thing as a smooth run, but I had to say, Franz nailed that. That was, apart from maybe a couple of minor mistakes, he's pretty straight through the chicane. When you're carrying that sort of start speed, it's actually interesting. Being there, they're about a 10th faster in the start today, but only 100th over the track record. So there is obviously speed in the track. There's a bit more speed up at the top end, and now he'll be watching the screen to see what his compatriot Hansi can deal here.
Checking the runners as well, just feeling to see if there's any imperfections that need polishing out. Well, that has
here we go.
Raised the bar or lowered the bar or whatever, thrown the gauntlet down for Johannes Lochner and Georg Fleischer. Their better start yesterday, as you said, was a 5:05.
I mean, they dropped a 10th. The first heat was 5:14 to a 5:05. 900s. That's a huge margin.
Well, they're not going to go another 500s quicker, but you know that they will be chasing the fastest start, because that gives Hansi the best chance to try and chase down his teammate. They were 1400s apart after the first two heats. It is achievable, but he does need perfection. 5:06.
So Franz should have get him on this case. Now watch corner 2. So around corner 1. Out of 2, a little bit of a skid. The back end's gone a little bit. So Coach Stefan will not be too happy about that. But let's see how that affects him on the way down. So he's already 2/10, but number one on the speed. Yeah,
better speed. They had slightly less escape velocity off a slower start. But he's having a good top end. Still better speed than Friedrich. It's only a whisker better. We're talking maybe a 1/10 of a kilometre an hour. But everything helps when you're battling for hundreds.
It's to be beautiful through here. He's brought that down from 19 to 10.
It's not going to come down much further unless he really flies here. It is 800.
He's finding some rocket speed at the bottom.
How's he doing this? Johannes Lochner, a new track record. 800ths of a second. That's okay. We may have a German winner, but it's not going to be a steamroller for Francesco Friedrich. Hansi. Wow.
I tell you what, the spectators are in for a treat here, because if there's a man who knows how to respond, it's Francesco Friedrich. And if there's a man who wants to beat Francesco Friedrich, it's Hansi Lochner. So we're in for a barnstorming Heat 4. Great pushing. It was definitely better down the track today, but he was finding speed at the bottom.
Wow, and still didn't clean the chicane.
No.
Came nicely onto 17. Great view there of how the brakeman buries himself in the sled.
And it's great to see these guys. These are two really tall lads, and I think if you watch their slow-mo in the pushing, they sync up beautifully. I think that's part of what rockets that sled off. And speaking of rocket, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Adam Ammour, 3rd place overnight with Benny Hertel. Now, he's 1700s ahead of Frank Del Duca, 3300s behind the leader. But if the track is going to continue to speed up today, then who knows what might happen.
Now we expect to see something in the O's here. Benny cautious getting it at 5:11. Okay, so it's dropped back. They were number 1 in the first push yesterday with a 5:12.
Yeah.
So they've taken 100 off their first push, and not great round 2, but it's not too bad. Adam actually drove, in my view, as the brakeman with one brain cell. Adam actually drove better than Hansi and Friedrich yesterday, in my opinion. But
right, 2nd best speed, so quicker at that stage than Friedrich. 3rd best speed. All right, so it's half a second adrift, but Hansi was kind of 4/10 back and brought it back. Let's see if Adam can bring this back at all. A nice chicane will help.
He had a couple of nice exits there. That's coming down by a whisker, but
yeah, it's not going to be a track record, but is it enough to hold on to the bronze medal in Heat 3 ahead of Frank Del Duca? Because Del Duca will come in here with his tail up, 54.79. Okay, 1900 slower than the leader. And that leaves him half a second off the pace. So we do have a 2-horse race, I think, for gold, unless something cataclysmic goes wrong with either Friedrich or Lochner. But for the other medal, for the bronze, it is Adam Ammour versus the chasing pack. And he had the slight advantage overnight, Greg, but it is small, and mistakes here cost volumes.
Yeah, I'm just racking my brain there, thinking like half a second adrift. Is that Hansi and Friedrich set such a standard? So is that half a second still well within bounds to take that bronze medal, or has he opened the door a little bit for Frankie? Because Frankie was flying yesterday, and I'd put these guys down to potentially get into the O's here with the start as well.
That is Adam's quickest run, quicker than his first heat. And that was a 10th quicker than Del Duca. So Frank Del Duca, Chuck Volker need to find something very, very quick. But you just know that in 4th place overnight, you're just within touching distance of a medal.
So here we go, boys. Home ice.
Yeah. This is the one that'll make it or break it. A good run here, and Del Duca is right in the mix. Mark Vandenberg at the back in the grey beanie. These are his sleds. He designs and builds the MUSA sleds.
5:14.
5:14, good getaway, but 300s more added to the deficit.
Okay, see how we go. Pretty clean out 2, keeps it square. Takes the tap out of 3, round 4, and we're into the Devil's Highway. If there's a man who can manage Devil's Highway the best in the field, it will be the man in the front seat currently. Pretty good. So far, 2 tenths back from Adam, I believe.
Yeah, little late flop and 7200s back. So exactly 2 tenths behind Ammour at the moment. He needs to close this in. Needs to have a really good run through the chicane. That's
Here we
nice
go.
and
That's
clean.
gorgeous. There we go. Let's see the speed at the bottom here now.
But the gap is grown again. So this is going to be more than 2 tenths back unless he really finds speed in the heart.
Just held the bleed there.
Across the line,
Yeah.
54.87. He loses another 800s.
So his last few splits, you saw about 7800ths, and then it just held 78, 78, 77.
Yeah.
So I think that speed through the chicane probably helped, but maybe the Germans just have a little more pace.
I was talking to Mark Vandenberg yesterday, and he's saying they're still looking at the start. He said the Germans, whatever they start, they have better velocity. Even if you start right with them, their velocity is better. I said, well, that's not aero, is it? Is that sled? And he said, I don't know. I think it's their technique.
Yeah, we've said this before, particularly in the 4-man, where we've seen Friedrich on a final heat of a World Championships. He can push a similar time to, you know, Hansa or even us, you know, Maritz, but then the velocity by the next clock, they're like 2 tenths ahead.
Yeah.
There's extraordinary velocity that goes into that sled, and they're certainly not telling us how they're doing it.
Well, no, and all the video is, you know, it needs to be analysed to figure out exactly what they're doing to get that extra speed. Now then, Mickey Vogt and Andreas Haas, 5th place. And these guys, 6500s behind Frank Del Duca. So this is about position in the top half dozen, trying to hold off the next sleds behind them.
Yeah, so a 26 for them boys there. That's a little less heat than they had yesterday. They had a 23 and a 21 getaway, which were 9th and 10th ranked starts, but beautiful out 2 from Mickey there. We're looking at a guy who can really drive this track.
Yeah, and by the time we get to the Olympics next year, he'll be back to full fitness, and so he will be starting faster and driving just as well. He's still driving beautifully. 5th best speed, 1:16 and 1:14.1.
And he's another one who's going to be wanting to hold off the chasing pack.
Yeah.
Brad Hall, Jeff Gadbois, beautifully through the chicane. He's not going to want to give an inch here, and this is a pretty beautifully driven run so far.
Yes, we've got a 2-horse battle for the lead, 2-horse battle for bronze. Mickey Vogt just a couple of steps ahead of the chasing pack. 55.32. Again, quicker than anything he produced yesterday.
That's still, look at the golf to Frankie, over a second back. Between 4th and 5th. This is where this field just stretches.
And 8 tenths slower than Hansi down the run. On one run. Wow. Now, you know, in a 2-heat race in Innsbruck, if you're 8 tenths behind, you're like 16th. But here, mistakes are so costly. Yeah, this is a bit like racing in Monaco. It punishes everything.
Absolutely threaded the needle there.
Yeah. But again, just a little late onto 17.
Is that for that arriving just slightly on the wrong side?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just see the bumpers ease up onto the corner.
And definitely want to watch for the 4-man as well.
Yeah, 4-man is going to reset the field a little again. Now then, Kim Jin-soo, this Korean former brakeman, and Kim Hyung-kyun. Kim has just been absolutely blasting out great runs all season long in the World Cup, and it's really not a surprise to see him here in the top half dozen. And this, for Korea, would be a really strong result, setting them up to head into the games in Milano Cortina.
Yeah, and watch the start here. The boys have been fantastic all season long. 2 5:17s yesterday, so they were in the teens. 5:18 today. It's a 5th rank push. They were 5th and 6th yesterday.
And 5th best velocity. You saw the sled rocking as the driver vaulted in, rocking again as the brakeman loaded. That's taking energy out. If you're moving the sled sideways, you're not helping to accelerate it as efficiently.
Yep.
So it's all of that loading. When you watch Kasia Love in the monobob this afternoon, she gets in as though she just walks off behind the sled. No lateral motion at all, and that helps the energy move forward.
Yeah, you bang on, and that's another reason to watch George Fleischauer. Big skid there.
Yeah.
Fleischauer, when he loads so beautifully in one piece, and the sled doesn't move. So they carry that velocity, a bit of a skid there. That's going to affect him. That's the sort of thing Brad Hall, Jeff Gadbois, the guys chasing for top 6 here are going to be loving to see.
Still top 5 speed, so quicker, and maybe 1 or 2 that will follow. 55.35, only 300 slower than Mickey Vogt. And giving away sort of 6, 7, 8 years of driving experience to the Swiss. Kim has really been knocking it out of the park this season. I can't say enough how impressed I've been with his year.
But this is a guy who, on his World Cup debut in Hoevenberg, took a bronze medal.
Yeah.
Is that right? In the 2-man? So
yeah.
Had skills from the get-go, really.
Yeah.
But a great example of a brakeman getting into the front seat and absolutely doing the business. That skid there will have hurt his speed. Yeah,
that's probably worth 2/10 by the time you get to the line. And again, coming in shallow means you're going, whoa, hard onto the on-take of the corner. And again, anything that whips the body sideways, it takes energy to do that, and that's energy leaving the sled.
Absolutely. And here we go. Has he opened the door to the top 6 here?
Well, Brad Hall just a 10th behind Kim Jin-soo, 5/10 behind Mickey Vogt.
They need the start here. I think yesterday we saw their second heat was just blowing a gale into their start, and I really do think that accounted. I know I'm biased.
Yeah.
I think that accounted for the
there were
slower
definitely
start.
some starts where you're going, they're a 10th off, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it was, the wind was very tricky yesterday.
5:14.
Now, what he needs to do actually is have a really strong drive as well. Nice out of 2.
Bit of a skid.
Little skid into 3. And you think, OK, well, they're only going slowly. It doesn't hurt that much. It actually hurts much more in the slower corners than if you have a little skid at 70 or 80 miles an hour.
That's it, but he's currently got second speed, if the Omega's to be believed, and he's...
Second best velocity, 4th best velocity, still looking good in the Devil's Highway. He's the 7th starter. He's already picked off Kim at this stage. Look at the bottom right-hand corner. That digit is where he is on the splits. 4th best speed in the chicane.
Here we go. He's had a bit of a skid into 13, I think, just little areas which might have been scrubbing away time. But is he currently on for 6th? Is he going to hold this?
Going to be close at the line. He is tied for 6th.
There we go.
All right. Well, the first tie of the heat. Brad Hall, 55.15. I can't read. It's 2:20. He's not tied. He's
no,
a 10th
he is
ahead of Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my...
Again, that's me not wanting to correct. I'm normally wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm
a 10th up. So he moves ahead of Kim into 5th place. And again, that's going away down through the chicane. Not major damage, just little touches.
The biggest spread we've seen from
and I just felt with Kim's run, that's where potentially with some of the mistakes he made, it may have opened the door a little bit here. Jeff Gadbois is going to be one to watch because he's gone from, 33rd sled in that first heat, up into the top 10.
Yeah.
He's performed on the slower ice.
We start again from day 1. That would be better.
Why did we have that yesterday?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we can't turn the clock back. The clocks went forward overnight. So, OK, Jeff Gadbois and Bryce Cheek. So, Gadbois starting last sled in the first heat. Definitely didn't have the best of the ice. They had top 12 starts in both runs. 10th quickest in heat 1, 7th quickest in heat 2. And he's only 400s behind Brad Hall. So he should be in position to move up and challenge for a top 5 run.
And you know what? Here we go. Respect. Ooh, little miss on the handle there from Jeff. But respect to Bryce Cheek yesterday. This guy is obviously a hell of a brakeman because he's given Jeff real good 2-man nudges.
He's still getting in as well. Really desperate to make it a good one. It's not as quick as their previous 2. So Gadbois didn't quite hit the handle. And when his brakeman was getting his hand slipped on the cowl.
So that might have taken a bit of heat out of just that extra velocity they need to jump up to get to Brad here.
8th sled, 7th best start, but only the 8th velocity. So start time was the same as Mickey Vogt, but the speed that they carried through the first cloths wasn't. But now here he comes, 7th best speed.
It's a bit messier from Jeff, so he may not quite have the speed here. Skid down the chicane. I think even in these American flying machines, he might not have enough here.
It's going to be close. Now he's losing a little too much down at the bottom unless he finds a shortcut through the heart. No, doesn't make it. 55.49, so losing ground to Kim Jin-soo. It's 1,400 slower than the Korean, so that's just a little bit more fresh air between him and the top half dozen, where Brad Hall lies in 6th, 3,800s ahead. Yeah, disappointing for Jeff Gadbois. There you go, misses the handle.
Yeah.
And then if this runs on, watch the right hand of his brakeman Bright Cheek as he loads, misses the cowl.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, all of that energy, that inertia that you're throwing into the sled, suddenly, oh no, it's rocking and rolling, and yeah.
Yeah, those are the fine details.
Again, anybody who rides a motorcycle will know if somebody's moving around on the back, the whole thing is moving. That's exactly what's happening to the sled.
And you can see there the slow-mo makes it look far worse than it is, but taking skids in these, we're seeing these critical moments.
Yeah.
You're skidding out of 2. If you're a little bit messy in the Devil's Highway, not taking nice exits, if you're skidding down the chicane, it's not quite there for you.
Well, now here's a chance then maybe for Mihai Tentea, because he was only 400s behind Jeff Gadbois, and Tentea really drove beautifully yesterday. Their 2 starts, 22nd and 18th. The 2 runs, 8th fastest and 10th fastest.
Yeah, Mihai's been flying in training as well, and that is 100th faster than Gadbois' push, so
I tell you what,
looking good here.
You know, in the ideal world for TV, it would be great to see him with Georg Fleischhauer behind, firing him off the top like a cruise missile. Then we'd really see what this boy can do as a driver.
Oh, we say this all the time. We want to do an all-stars push at the end of the year. Maybe in Koenigsegg. Here we go.
8th best at the moment.
Square
He's
taps,
going to move
nice for the
up.
chicane.
This is looking good for Mihai Tentea.
Has he got enough?
I think he might have. Jeff Gadbois a little vulnerable at the line, not quite. 55.49 run, exactly the same as Gadbois. So it is game on for Heat 4 because that gap remains just 400s.
Okay,
so he's come down this track from a whisker faster start in the same time as Jeff Gadbois, who has been driving here his entire life.
Yeah, and great job in the start, boys, because they had a 5:31 and a 27 yesterday.
Yeah.
And today they've started the day with a 25. It is so normal, day 2 of a major champs, for the start velocity just to drop off a bit because you're tired and all sorts of other, you know, bobsleigh variables, you know, weather and temperature and things like that. So to take that start down to their best start of the weekend, that's what a great start to Heat 3 and day 2 for these boys.
Not a bad chicane at all. Just that little tap of them, just easing him over to the right, ideal for getting onto 17. He's one more. He's looking happy with that. That's the second thing every foreign driver learns, is one more. The first one, obviously, is swearing in English. Now then, Cedric Follador, Quentin Joyard, let's see what they can produce again. They are not far away. They're only 900s behind Mihai Tentea. You could find maybe 3 or 4 of those in the start, and then tidying up one tiny error will make a big difference. But you can see there, 7th in Heat 1, 15th in Heat 2, hasn't got that consistency yet in Lake Placid.
Yeah, and they had a pair of 34s yesterday. They've started at 5:32 there, so already off to a better start, which is great. And I think he said he'd be really disappointed with that second run. You know, you say you take a 7th place, top 8 run in the first one, and then, you know, almost doubling that to the negative in the second one is not where you want to be. But he's got second best speed here so far. This guy can drive.
Yeah, really good speed from the Swiss sled. 10th best start. And the velocity still decent for Cedric Follador, but he's gone from 2nd quickest to 8th quickest, little skids. Not unexpected in the Devil's Highway and down the labyrinth.
Lovely through the chicane.
All right, so is Tentea vulnerable? The answer is yes, he might be. This could be very close. He's not going to get him, but how close is he? 55.58, actually, he lost 900s on Mihai Tentea.
Yeah, there were elements of that run which were stunning. That chicane is probably one of the best we've seen today so far, but you could see the entrance into 13, took that little skid before he goes in. These little moments just scrub away time, scrub away speed. And when you're already trying to overturn deficits, it's not enough. So
there tends to be a reason why you're behind the guys in front, and unless you can tidy up those errors.
Watch this, gets that through. Very little going on in the runners.
And then
that's about as good as you can get.
And he was nicely heading over to the right to go into 17. Again,
rocking and rolling down the bottom.
And again, all of that time where the sled is being thrown sideways, that's energy leaving it. Francesco Friedrich still the leader, but a tiny margin over Hansi Lochner and a good battle on behind. 10 sleds down and 21 to go here in Heat 3 of the two-man bobsleigh World Championships. At the end of this heat, we will know who does go through into the final run and who has to spectate. Shouldn't be an issue for Jakobs Kalenda and Mats Miknes.
So big starting nation here. 5:16, that's a lot better getaway for the boys. They had a 21 and a 19 yesterday, so I was expecting them to improve. And you've got a warhorse on the sled like Mats Miknes. You expect to see something fast, but Jakobs is young, he's learning. He's getting more and more experience at the top end. He's got a lot on his shoulders. You know, Latvia is a storied nation of bobsledders. He's the next big hope. So there's a lot to take on here, and he's going pretty well in this run.
Yeah.
Late off there.
Again, having grown up in Sigulda, he'll be used to the feel of really having to steer for the corners rather than just ease the sled through. This is not that sort of a track. Yeah,
he's used to the bobsleigh rodeo. We always compare Sigulda and Lake Placid, to be fair. He's had a few little mistakes here, but it's been an okay run.
Top 10 run.
There we go.
So Kalenda just dropped behind at the line. I mean, that's tough. 400s. So battle on between him and Cedric Follador, two of the younger up-and-coming drivers. That's going to be entertaining in the final heat.
And they'll keep chipping away there, because when you got, almost 2/10 to the good on the start between him and Cedric Follador.
Well, his run at 55.50, Follador did a 5.8, Tentea did a 4.9, Gadbois did a 4.9. He's right in there swinging.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, in that little 6 to 10 group, he's every bit the match for all of those guys. If he has just, I don't know, the tiniest, slightly better run, then it could be jumping up a spot or two. And again, one tiny error creeps in, you find a ladder, you find a snake instead. So this can be very tight. Taylor Austin, Mike Evelyn, really good first day for the Canadians. 12th place off the 26th and 22nd best start. So anything, any ounce of speed they can find at the start is going to be absolutely meat and drink to this driver. But Taylor Austin really put down two great runs yesterday.
Yeah, Big Mike's looking stunning on the back there. A 5:31 getaway. Yesterday, they had a 33 and a 29. So again, they'll be wanting to take that time down in the next run. Oh, big skid out of 2. So that will damage the velocity from the start there. But let's see how Taylor negotiates this through the Devil's Highway. This is a track he's got great experience on. The North American guys spend a lot of time here, spend a lot of time in Whistler, a lot of time in Park City, and we should see Taylor tame this better than most.
7th best speed. Now, he was only 300s behind Jakobs Kalenda, but they started 1,500 slower, and that big skid has opened up the margin again. The Latvian might be feeling a little safer, but look at Taylor again, 6th best speed. He knows this ice better than almost all the Europeans, and he's capitalizing on that. Across the line, doesn't quite get to them, 55.77. That's the loose one that he really didn't want to creep in from training.
Yeah, that's where, again, it's extraordinary to see these pockets of time down through the field where it's like, it's close, and then it's yawning, and then it's a close, and then it's yawning, and that's just opened up a bit there for Kalenda. So, Kalenda to Austin, rather. So, Kalenda getting into the top 10 is still doable. Taylor will be looking to maybe, he might be a little too far adrift now to jump any more.
Yeah, 3/10s behind Kalenda is going to be a tough ask, and 4/10s out of the top 10. But he'll want to go out and get a really good run for the 4th heat. I mean, they're seriously outdriving their start.
Yeah, absolutely.
but a little disappointed with that. You can see the door in the background. Sleds and crew go in to be weighed to check that they're all fine. Next up for Switzerland, Timo Rohner and Greg Jones, 2 drivers in this sled. Timo Rohner has been driving for 7-8 years. Son of Marcel Rohner, one of the great Swiss drivers at World Championship and Olympic level in the 90s. And Greg Jones just starting his driving career really this season and returning to the brakes for the World Championships.
Yeah, and he pointed out yesterday, Greg's been in great shape this year. He's launching Timo off to some fantastic starts. I'll be really keen to see where his driving career goes. So 5:23, it's another great getaway. So that's 3 5:23s for the weekend so far from these boys. Timo looks like he's having a little trouble there. I don't know if he was...
Little tap, 2 to 3.
He was looking around a little. He's looking around.
He is looking around.
Something's... Has he lost the D-rings?
Well,
no,
he's still steering, but he's sitting up high. What's that? Did he think that Greg didn't get in?
It looked like that. I mean, he's a big lad, you feel him.
It does happen. Well, what if he gets in quietly? It does happen occasionally. Oh!
Big hit there.
Greg nearly got fired out there. You saw all of his shoulders above the cowling. This is a really untidy run. He hasn't got his D-rings crossed or something, has he?
I don't know. If he has, then we're looking at the best driver in the field. He's managed to get down Lake Placid in that situation. I'm sure we'll find out afterwards, but that... Something didn't look quite right there. No. It didn't look comfortable.
Really, really not right at all. And Greg's kind of leaning... Is there something loose in the sled? What's falling out of the sled? Like padding or something?
There we go. Look.
He's shaking his head. What? There is something behind. Something.
Yeah, something's
happened. Is his seat back broken? I don't know what on earth has happened.
It looks like he's looking at D-rings, maybe. The bungee broken? Well, I mean, it was, obviously he's looking around a lot. Uncharacteristically messy drive.
Down. He's looking into the sled.
That's what I think. I think he's looking. He's either got something crossed over, or something's. Oh, he's got caught up somewhere. Maybe in his feet. I don't know. It looks like he's going. Greg, break.
I know.
We need to stop.
Here,
what a big wax on his head.
I tell you what. Anybody firing Greg Jones up in the air like that is expending a lot of energy. But they're checking inside the sled.
Well, they got down safely, so that's the most important thing.
We'll get Mark, our floor manager, to ask him what was going on and maybe send us a message, because that was weird. All right, so now then, not too far behind. Again, we're looking at tiny margins here. Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, only 600s behind Timo Rohner. So this is low-hanging fruit for Baumgartner. 5:25 getaway. That's their fastest in the competition.
Yeah, and that's how you want to start day 2. But again, we always say, Patrick, we're looking at a guy who's a fantastic driver, one of the best in the field, really. Little skid there, just as I say, that commentator's curse. Didn't have the first day that he'd have wanted yesterday, but this guy's steadily improving in the starts. His boys are fantastic athletes. He's got big Robert in the back there. He's phenomenally strong. You saw his shoulders trying to squeeze in when he first got in the sled. You know, these are big boys, and they're coming into form at the right time.
Right. This is not the run that's going to put him in front of Timo Rohner. Really untidy from Patrick Baumgartner. Lots of additional height, falling off corners. Maybe just letting it run too free. 12th on the splits. Maybe it will put him ahead of Rohner. At the line, no.
He does, yep.
Oh, does he? Yes, he does. Okay, 13th place, Baumgartner. So he was almost ahead of Taylor Austin. So he's only 600s by 800s behind Taylor. 55.74 run.
Yeah, and you can see in Rohner's speed, you know, he's almost a couple of K down for whatever that mishap was in the sled. So, like you said, a little uncharacteristically rocky through there. Robert would have felt that bump. You know, generally we expect to see Patrick being a little bit smoother, but he did manage to find some speed, has jumped a spot. And a solid push for the boys, nicely through the chicane, taking those square taps. See, he's not giving the camera a reaction. I'm sure he's smiling inside the helmet.
All right, well, the Swiss aren't saying what happened with the sled. So that remains a question mark. Now then, Pat Norton for Canada with Shaq Murray-Lawrence behind. 22nd and 18th starts, 15th and 12th best runs, and only 900s behind Patrick Baumgartner.
At 27 getaways, that's not a bad start for the first run of day 2. 31 was their first start yesterday and a 26 in their second heat. So Shaq is bringing the heat this morning. Pat's a good pushing pilot, developing well, and just like Taylor Austin, has a lot of experience on these North American tracks.
Good speed, 11th best velocity as he comes into the Devil's Highway. This is really good. Pat Norton has the opportunity here to move ahead of Timo Rohner and maybe try and reel in Patrick Baumgartner. 15th on the splits, he is the 15th sled, now 14th on the splits. Starting to climb, he's ahead of Rohner.
If he carries this through, I think he's going to jump Timo. I think Timo's mishap is going to really...
And he might get close to Patrick Baumgartner as well. There wasn't much daylight between these sleds in the first day's action. 14th at the line, 3.44 back, 2200s behind Baumgartner. Justin Cripps in the grey beanie, applauding that. Returns to the coaching staff in the last few weeks. Great to see the Olympic gold and bronze medalist in two-man returning for Canada.
Definitely. And that's what you want to be doing, certainly lower down in the field here in your World Championships second day. Jumping sleds, gaining spots, to gain confidence, and with faster starts as well. You know, for Shaq, putting out a better start for his first run, and he will absolutely, I know, knowing Shaq, will go hard in the fourth.
Yeah.
Give him the best velocity he can to get a strong top 15 finish.
So Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner and Adam Ammour are the top 3. And trouble for Timo Rohner. He had a problem with one of his D-rings, so he could only steer in one direction. So to get it down in one piece at all speaks volumes about cold-blooded reflexes. That's astonishing. Sun Kai-chi of China now with Chen Heng behind him, just outside the top 15. How much just, Martin? 700s. Again, this tight group normally goes from sort of 6th or 7th down to 16th, 17th in our regular races, and there's barely 100th between any of them. 5:23 getaway, their fastest of the competition.
Yeah, there's a couple of hundreds to the good there for the boys. 5:26 and the 5:25 yesterday.
Little late off 2, fell off 2.
Big whack.
Yeah.
Between 3 and 4.
It was quite a solid whack. That wall is starting to come apart, though. You can't miss it in a skeleton sled. You can't miss it in a bobsled.
Certainly is not looking too bad for the Devil's Highway coming to Shady 2.
Out of corner 10, little tap down into the labyrinth. A late flop there as well. That's not at all uncommon. All of these corners are single pressure corners, like some of the big waves you see in many of the tracks around the world, which means if you've got it wrong, it stays wrong.
Yeah, by and large, I think Sun's had a pretty good run there.
Yeah. Picks up Rohner as well. Yeah, so Timo Rohner, they got it down in one piece, but they didn't get it down as quickly as might have been the case.
Yeah, I think as the run continues, we're going to see just how damaging that was for Timo. It's such a shame.
Yeah. And it happens, and sometimes in all sport you get equipment failure. There's a great view of Shady 2. It's not a shady corner, it actually gets a lot of sun, but it's named after Shady on the original, or under 1980 Lake Placid track, from which so many legendary names came.
So it was nice to see the chicane. He just took that tap at the end, which probably helped then get across to getting on 17 a little more efficiently. That's, you know, not a bad run for the boys. They had a better start. Good run.
In the top 15, yeah. And a chance as well for Boris Vian to move up a spot. He was actually 900s behind the Chinese. So Timo Rohner might fall another one here. Boris was 3100s behind Rohner.
Yeah, we want to see Antoine firing Boris off here to another start in the 20s, really. These guys are capable of starting actually close to the top of the field.
Yeah.
But as we said yesterday, Antoine's had injury issues this year. He won't be in the form that he'll be in next year, I've no doubt.
A little bit of this is trying to keep pace with Boris Vian on the front handle, isn't it?
Yeah, no, Boris is an animal.
Yeah. It must have been like being a brakeman for Bruce Tasker when he started driving.
5:23, there we go.
Good start. They
Much
had a
better, boys. Well
31
done.
and a 27, so really woken up hard this morning.
Back like he was just creeping out the 2, but he kept it under control. Standard tap out of 3, and here we go into the Devil's Highway. These first 2 big right-handers. Look for smooth transitions on the exits.
17th sled down, but 13th best speed. So again, I think Timo Rohner is vulnerable here. Unfortunately, Rohner's mechanical issues might see him end up at the bottom of the top 20. That might be dangerous because only the fastest 20 go through into the final heat. Ooh, it was looking like a decent chicane, but he got that big tap on the right bunk. Was 10th best speed there. Some of that will have drifted away.
Yeah, because he was pretty good.
Ahead of Sun Kai-chi on the splits. Up
As he jumped,
three.
he jumps. Go on,
Up
Boris.
3. Wow.
Go on, Boris. Even you've got to be happy with that.
Yes. Jumps Pat Norton, Sun Kai-chi and Timo Rohner. 200s
now to Pat Norton. Wow.
Yeah.
Great job, Boris.
Excellent stuff.
And there we go. We see Antoine giving him a better shove. That's a team. It's great to see the team effort pay off there, you know.
Yeah, Boris didn't look at all a happy camper after day one. I think that will have put the afterburners on.
Well, it's interesting for these guys. I wonder what happened there. Like a little, like it almost jarred it and stopped it. That should have affected
just
speed.
a late flop, and then I think he took an early steer there, and that you saw that transition as the sled landed. He's already steering it, and then that little tap through the chicane, but it kept the speed on.
Yeah, but it's interesting with these guys. When you've got former brakemen going into the front seat, these are competitors, these are racers, they want to win. They're used to starting fast and winning that battle. So when you get them in the front seat and tell them, well, you've got to be patient while you learn to drive, they're like, well, I don't want to be patient, I want to be winning now. So it's a really interesting thing to see their development and growth.
Now, a little gap behind Boris Van to Li Chunjian of China. They were 2900ths behind the Monegasque sled. So actually their battle now is going to be with their teammates Sun and Chen.
Another 23.
Yeah, they were 3800s behind the other Chinese sled, so that does look like a bit of an unbridgeable gap. And then if Sun has a shocker in Heat 4, who knows?
Yeah, Lee needs an absolute barnstormer here as well.
10th best speed. Well, he might be having one. If he can keep this clean down the Devil's Highway, highway will make or break your run. If you get a good highway, you're golden. He drove too much. He's gone from 10th fastest to 18th fastest, i.e. slowest split sled out of corner 10. Good chicane, picking up a bit more.
That might help him. It's a little bit rocky through the 13-14 labyrinth.
Yeah.
But with that chicane helps him with a bit of speed. I don't know if he's going to gain any spots here. He doesn't. Drops behind Rohner.
Yeah, 56.04, the first sled not to go into the 55s, in fact. So even Timo Rohner had a quicker run down. So he's 18th. And just to reiterate, the fastest 20 at the end of this heat go through into Heat 4, and the remaining 11 sleds do not.
Yeah, like I say, Martin, it didn't look terrible through the Devil's Highway, but sometimes with that speed scrubs, maybe, as you say, there's a bit of overdriving going on.
Yeah.
And being a brakeman, I feel like sometimes watching Devil's Highway, you can forgive a bit of overdrive. I think I'd be Robin Hooding it off every corner. But nicely through the chicane. I think that probably helped him keep a bit of speed on board. But yeah, sadly for Lee, just not quite enough to make any jumps.
All right. Currently 18th out of 18. And next up for Brazil, the first of our Brazilian competitors, Edson Bindilatti with Edson Martins. Bindilatti, a 4-time Olympian, Martins, a 3-time Olympian. This is actually only Edson's 3rd World Championships.
Yeah, this next little cohort, 3 or 4 sleds, are all battling for the top 20 here.
This is a proper knife fight. 100th behind Li Chunjian, who we've just seen. So everything is possible. Good start. They had a 29 and a 32. I was chatting to him at the top of the track earlier on, and he's in very good form. All long skid out of 3 into 4. 10th best speed, though.
Yeah, let's hope he can find speed down here, because that's... Oh, little late. You know, 5:24 getaway. This is a 45-year-old on the handle, as you said. Like wants the younger generation to come through and let him retire. But he's still showing he's got the
coming
chops.
for Brazil as well.
Nice for the labyrinth.
But he knows this. He's been driving his track for 20 years. 7th best speed down into the chicane. Either that or they're winding the speedo back somehow. What a good-looking run. Is he going to be ahead of Li Chunjian of China? I think he is. Does he move up one? No. 18th best run. Doesn't quite move up ahead of Lee.
Yeah, so it's saying he's got really good speed, but there were actually a few mistakes down there, so I was surprised to see that. But they say this is a guy who knows this track like the back of his hand. Maybe he knows the shortcuts.
Well, he came down 100th slower than Lee, so that first day's gap of 100th becomes 2.
And Lee's a regular World Cup performer, so Edson's absolutely holding his own here. But again, we talk about this opening the door. Have they just made a few too many mistakes to allow the next cohort come in? We know Horn and Powell are going to be jumping in. We know the Jamaicans were going well yesterday. We've got a sub-10 sprinter on the Jamaican sled today, so stay tuned for that in 2 sleds time. And these fast-pushing Italians coming next.
All right.
Good push, Edson.
Yeah. If he can stay where he is in the top 20, that will be a really solid result for age and treachery versus youth and exuberance. So, talking of which, Alex Verginer and Riccardo Ragazzi. Verginer will be in the 4-man crew next weekend with Patrick Baumgartner. They need his speed. There he is in the grey helmet. But he's also been driving the 2-man in World Cup races this year. Not just Europe Cup, not out of the spotlight. He's been in with the big boys in the Shark Tank.
Absolutely, and Ragazzi on the back's a good athlete as well. You know, he's been responsible for some very good 2-man pushes this year. And a 5:22 getaway is slightly off the pace. They had a 21 and a 20 yesterday, but this is still good going from the guys.
But they were tied with Brazil after the first day of action, so they've just started 200s quicker than we saw from Edson Bindilatti. So he's got a slender advantage, but only the 20th best velocity now. Whether Edson's speeds were correct or not, it is about their time at the bottom. And at the moment, on the split, he has not got on terms with the Brazilian. Again, wouldn't mind betting that this is Alex's first time driving down here. Should have checked, but can't imagine that he's been here before as a driver.
No, I don't think he has. This is his first time here.
So again,
it's a good-looking.
It is a good-looking run. He's giving away, you know, 2 decades of experience to the Brazilian.
He might. Has he got enough here? 4:28.
Let's see. Not quite. Not
900s.
quite.
I think that's where you are seeing the experience of Edson, just holding him off there.
100%. Knows the track inside out. And I have to say, Alex, to be in the top 20 on his debut, not just in the World Championships as a driver, but on a track he's not raced before, that's massively impressive.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think he's had a good couple of days here so far. And
now,
next one's
question is, does he stay in or not? He's in the drop zone at the moment, and we've got Chris Horn coming up for the US, who's put in 2 top 5 runs. One ended in a crash, the other one ended in him jumping up from the tail of the field. So Alex on the left and Riccardo on the right may get a final heat. They equally well may not. Those 10 sleds will. But 19th and 20th, Alex Verginer, Edson Bindilatti might be in danger now. Shane Pitter had a good run in the first couple of heats with his brakeman Tyreek Bucknor, but now Taekwondo Tracy, the 31-year-old brakeman, in his first ever race. He's a 9.96 100-meter sprinter from Jamaica.
There it is.
Look at that.
5:16. That is a rocket ship. They had a 24 and a 25 yesterday. Sub-10 man on the back, thank you very much. 5:16, that's a great start for the Jamaicans. You know what, I would love to see these guys break into the top 20.
Yeah, it would be a great story for a crew that has not slid at the top level before. They have learned their trade on North American tracks, so this is sort of a bit of a comfort blanket, but nevertheless, you are competing with athletes who have done an awful lot more ice miles than you.
Definitely, there's so much to be said for that level of experience, so this is huge for the guys.
19th at the start, but they've slipped out to 21st place.
Have they got enough on board?
Doesn't look like it, but it might be close at the line. How close? 20th, they are in. They are in.
By 100th.
For the moment, by 100th, ahead of Alex Verginer. But the real danger man comes next. Chris Horn of the USA. I'm afraid their jubilation may well be short-lived.
I think whatever happens here, even if they are just outside, they've got to be so happy with that. They are absolutely on merit, going toe-to-toe to get in the top 20 at a major championships in bobsleigh. That is awesome. And awesome push. I'm sorry, 5:16. Where does that rank them?
I know.
6th best push.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And this is from a brakeman who's not had a race before. So he's done some training runs, which is how he gets in the sled at all. But this is first ever race, and it's at the highest level almost possible. You know, it could only be more extreme if you throw him in on day 2 of the Olympic Games.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes you could put a big sprinter on the back. If they haven't got necessarily the experience and the technique for pushing the heavy object yet, it doesn't always transfer immediately.
You don't do it with a heavily laden wheelbarrow. It's just not the same. So now then, Chris Horn and Hunter Powell taking over from Josh Williamson. Josh a bit beaten up by their crash yesterday. Okay, Chris Horn is really fired up for this. He was 5th fastest yesterday when they crashed in the heart. He doesn't get in again.
Oh, come on, Chris.
Second of 3 starts. His foot didn't get in, but that is a big start.
That's a fantastic start from the boys. A great job, Hunter, coming onto the sled. And we've got to shout out Manio Mitchell. He would have been competing this weekend. He's had some personal things at home, so we wish the best to you, Manio. But speaking to Horn at the bottom of the track yesterday, it's tough to talk to him because obviously he was like, he took it really, really well. But he's like, 2 fit spots. He knows where he should be, but he was frustrated with making that mistake. He knows what to do that and stuff. So I was like, you know, you're on your journey, man. This is what you'll learn from.
Big height, but up from 19th at the start to 18th on the splits.
Yeah, he's going to fly.
Yeah.
Looking good, and he's through that danger zone, 18-9. Woo! Still a bit rough, but...
17, 16.
16, there he comes.
Timo Rohner, ahead of Sun Kai Chi, chasing down Pat Norton. Gets Norton, gets Boris Van. 5th fastest run, 55 dead.
Hey, well, 5th, and 5th.
Top 5 all the way, Chris Horn, and just letting it float a little too much in 17. Crashed out in the first heat, but from 29th, he's jumped up now after 2 more runs into 14th place. This should be a top 10 finish for Chris Horn.
And you know, that shows he's going toe-to-toe with Frankie as well.
Yep.
So what an exciting time for the American program. So yes, it's frustrating for Chris that he didn't get that first heat, but my God, like, you know, what a way to bounce back as well and show great temperament.
And home world, you know, friends and family and not wanting to let people down at home. There's a lot of internalised pressure, but there he is on the left.
And a huge shout out to Hunter on the right there, because he's filled Josh Williamson's shoes there, Manio Mitchell's shoes there. Those are big shoes to fill, and he did it fantastically. Well done, mate.
So, a little further back then, 23rd place, Matej Behounek and Michal Dobeš from Czechia. And for these guys, this will be the final run of their World Championships, unless they produce a top 5 run as well.
So a 33 and a 30 getaway for these guys, for the big guy Michal on the back. 25, well done, boys.
Now he's going to have to beat
much better.
Edson Bindilatti, and he was only 1,600 slower than Bindilatti. He had 2 pretty loose runs yesterday. If he can tidy them up, 13th best speed and 23rd on the splits. It's quite a mountain to climb in 1 run.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to have enough on board here to make too many leaps and bounds, but again, new pilots, young pilots, inexperienced, because they hit all the way through down this section.
Oh, nice chicane.
Nicely there, yeah. There's going to be all sorts of things like that, things that they'll be chalking up to the positives.
Yeah. Now, does he jump ahead of Alex Verginer of Italy? How close is he going to get? 23rd of the line, 18th best heat, 56.01. And that second run that they had, that's the one that really let them down to only 23rd fastest. But a 56.01, 18th best. So 20th, 23rd and 18th. That's a lack of knowledge of the track in a young driver like Matti. A little bit more consistency, another 2 or 3 years of driving, and those lines will keep him in the top 20. No final heat though for Czechia. So Matej and Michal are done. And that might be the case as well for Cyrus Gray and Kenny Lucatum Pindu. So Cyrus, another former brakeman turned driver. Let's see what he can produce. And these guys, 5:29, 5:33 yesterday.
Yeah, and I know Cyrus is super pumped for this race. Really wants to do well. Wanted to shout out his nephews who are watching at home. 5:31 getaway. Not too bad. 33 was their second push yesterday.
Oh, nearly rolled it out of the corner there. Very late on 2. That would have been a horrible ride down. Now his mind will be buzzing even more than it normally would be.
Just a couple of big head. Look at his head getting whacked off the cowling there. He'll be feeling that too.
And the problem is you can't dwell on any mistakes. You've got to really focus on what you're doing because the sled is motoring now. They'll be 60, 70 miles an hour down at the bottom of the track. You absolutely have to have your wits about you.
Yeah, taking that.
Oh!
I think he's just saved that.
Well, you saw that's exactly what happened to Chris Horn. He rolled the sled over there.
It's that tap that just pushes you over. So he did well to manage it. And again,
didn't he?
Justin and Lyndon there.
Woo!
No, that was close. So a little messier from Cyrus, but this is, he's another man who's learning. I was chatting to him in the changing rooms upstairs. He said he's like, shout out Judah and Aidan, my nephews, and Brett and Axel, Mesler's kids as well. So he just wanted to say hello to everyone, and he's having a great time. He's learning.
Uncle
and as we said about, but he's we said he's another guy who's a former brakeman who wants to be winning. He wants to be racing. So he's really working hard on keeping the patience, keeping the faith that this is all going to come together. And these are all just classic, learner mistakes. That is definitely
he got away with it. He got away with it. I mean, I've never seen anybody bin it off too, but I'm sure it's possible.
Oh,
I'm sure somebody has.
It's a long way down.
And down 17, 18, down in the heart, it really nearly got away with him.
Yes, just managed to have enough weight going the other way that he kept it on all four runners. But
luck or judgment? I think luck was on his side there. Yeah, he lives in Steve Mesler's house, lives with Mesler and his family, so anybody to get his head in the right place, Olympic champion Mesler is your man. Now for Israel, Adam Adelman and Regnars Kirievs, former Latvian slider now on the brakes for Israel. Rudy Rinaldi there in the green at the back, helping out with the coaching this season. And AJ, a former skeleton slider, turned to bobsled.
And a 43 getaway for the guys, a pair of 44s yesterday, so slightly to the good. Little flop off to the minor back end swish, but I think it was okay. So we fly into the Devil's Highway now. This is another development athlete with lots of experience on North American tracks. He knows how to get down here.
Yeah.
And he's been looked after by a sensational talent in Rudy Rinaldi, whose career definitely ended too soon thanks to injuries.
Yeah.
But a top 6 Olympic finisher, so he's got the right knowledge in the staff.
Not a bad looking run at all from Adam Adelman.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, gets a nice run through the chicane. Nice entry into 17, but nearly rolls it off into 18. All right, a little bit of rocking and rolling. Ducks his head across the line. He's learning all the tricks.
Rudy, not quite too sure to make of that. Brakeman gives him a pat. Thanks for keeping us on all four runners.
Yeah. Again, luck or judgment. The jury's out on that.
Yeah, look, I mean, pretty good through here. Just at that slight tap. But nice through the chicane. Lots of positives. Main one being kept on all four runners.
Yeah,
down the
sends
bottom.
him a little sideways into 17, but it's the exit of 17. Brings it down just a little late. He's hung up there. Ooh, okay. Yeah, there's been a few.
It's a bit spicy down there, but...
There's been a few. Well, he got it down, got it done. And we head into our final sleds. Next up for Brazil, Gustavo dos Santos Ferreira and Rafael Souza da Silva. So the younger athlete, 25 years of age, the driver, and this is going to be the next generation for Brazil.
Yeah, for these guys, yesterday Edson had the bragging rights, and they pushed it 24 today, Edson. So yeah, it's 5:24, 15th rank push. So these boys were at 5:29 and 28 yesterday. They're going to be wanting to not give away too much time. 5:29.
Yeah, 5:29. Experience and technique working for the older crew.
So round 2 relatively clean. Very clean round 3 as well. Here we go. So round 4 into the Devil's Highway. Let's see how this young athlete manages.
And another young driver who's learned his trade in North America on the NAC circuit. So Park City, Whistler, and of course especially Lake Placid.
Yeah, and it's the same with Cyrus Gray as well. He's saying we're learning on tracks which are Placid, which is super technical, Whistler, which is the fastest track in the world. You're really clocking 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
These are tracks where you're blooding yourself in places which are sometimes literally in places that are not for the faint of heart. So they're learning in the best place. This is a pretty good run.
It is a good run. He's going to overhaul Israel at this stage, up to 24th on the splits, ahead of AJ Adelman. Yes, he is. 56.39. There you go. Final run of the World Champs. Your first time ever, and you pick off another of your rivals. There you go.
Yeah, he's done very well there.
You know,
he was nearly a 10th back from him before.
And for a young driver in only his first Worlds, just 4 spots out of the top 20 in a quality field. This is really good stuff from these guys.
Yeah, and great to see another Minor Nation program expanding, growing, you know, and as Ed said, not just relying on him, not retiring. You know, we've got some young lads coming through. And as you said yesterday, the 30 million subscribers they have to where this is being televised in Brazil. So eyes on winter sports, which is great.
I tell you what, whoever handles Brazilian Federation's email address for recruitment might need to be getting to their inbox shortly. All right, so 26 sleds down. 27th, the first of our Aussie duos. So got a little battle between the Aussies. There's about 4 tenths between Rhys Peters and Cam Scott, who follows. And Rhys with the more one careful owner looking sled.
Is it? Yeah, no, it's a...
One careful owner and several who have driven it like they stole it.
That's it. I saw a Bruntwork sponsor on the side there, which seems like an app name for this sticker on this sled. They're 5:43, 5:42 getaways yesterday. 5:49s for the other boys. So with the 45 here, you know, they're just taking it in the start, I think, from the other guys, and that's helping them give the velocity to put a bit of time and space between the compatriots.
And again, new crews, still learning to drive, still learning to push. So most of the Aussies have got fewer than 20 runs or 20 race runs. And so the knowledge of this track is going to have to come over the years. But
tap before 13 there. Little rocking and rolling, but again, these would say with the smaller nations, with people like Reed Walker flying the flag for Australia, saying it can be done. You can get from the learner level where you're at the bottom of the pack to climb up, climb up, climb up. You work on your athleticism, you work on your driving, you get the equipment sorted, and you got, you know, positive teammates like that.
Yeah.
There's only one way to go.
Well, I have to say, they're full of energy and enthusiasm, and that's where everything comes from. Everything else feeds off that. And so when you've got guys who are passionate about doing this like everybody else, then they will work hard to improve themselves, to somehow raise a little bit more money to come out and do some more races.
Yeah, it's a little wild out. I think that was 12 and then the tap before 13. But keeps it square through there.
Going away into Benham's Bend,
Yeah. Little offline down into the chicane. Lots of things to pick up with. Chris Spring will be watching.
Yeah, it's all Chris Spring's fault. he's the one. I mean,
these are your lines, Chris.
Even back to guys like Mike Evelyn, you know, he recruited all those guys in to push him. So Cam Scott and Pat Castelli are the second Aussie duo. And again, if they can get just a little closer, 56.12 on that third run for Rhys Peters and Ben Forst. That's the target, and 5:45 at the start. Let's see if they can get just a whisker quicker. They had 2:49s in the first heat. They'll have known overnight this will be their final run in the Worlds. 5:49 again, so they are consistent. Haven't dropped any speed at all at the start.
Yeah, some good consistency from the brakeman, from the pilot. Skid out of 2, so there's a little mistake there, but nicely round 3. Here we go to the Devil's Highway. So it's always good to see the race within races with these guys, with the smaller nations. They're all going to be wanting to beat each other and
it's going to be
climb the order, and this
so much banter going on between them. You know, tightly knit group of athletes all working together.
Yeah, and this is a solid run from Cam here.
Yep.
Very nicely through the chicane. Great job.
Looking a lot tidier.
Yeah.
I wonder how close he's going to be to a 57.12. If this is going to be a quicker run than his teammate. It might have the possibility to across the line. 57.17, just 500s between those runs for the two Aussie drivers, and that's impressive. That's how close they are to each other.
Yeah, you can see, I think Cam had the better run of it there. That was a nice run from the guy there. Good job, boys. Patrick on the back there, keeping him to a nice consistent 5:49, so giving him the speed. You can see there's that skid, that's that start velocity wiping skid, so those are the little mistakes I'll be wanting to brush up on, but I think a pretty fine run there from Cam.
Yep, I think that was a good way to finish your first World Championships with your best run. And yeah, good to see 2 Aussie sleds. Got Jamaica, we got Israel, we got 2 sleds from Brazil. There's a lot of nations involved here. Now, Jakub Prochaska with Antonin Vijas taking over from Andre Rapp, who was the day 1 brakeman. And Jakub a long way further back than he might have hoped. 21st and 27th at the start, and a 28th and a 29th best run.
Yeah, and this is a nice opportunity for Tony, who wanted to shout out his girlfriend Isabella, watching at home. Don't panic if it looks bumpy, this is just Lake Placid. But a 30 and a 39 for Andre yesterday, so Tony's run that far. And at 25, there you go. Well, there's a great way to come in as the spare athlete. Put a 10th on the starts from day 1. Fantastic job, Tony. Skid out there from Prochaska. So Jakub had some real rough rides yesterday, some real bumpy moments. Let's see if he can brush up. I'm sure you'd have debriefed with Dom Dvorak, because Dom didn't look too pleased on the coach's camera.
20th best speed, but rocking and rolling as he comes down at the end of the Devil's Highway. Got away with that by not much. And again.
Here he goes up 14 into the chicane. Now it's this bottom section of the track which looked a little bit rocky yesterday, and he's good.
Through
he's
17,
good.
18, 19. Yeah.
Well done, Jakub. This is a much better run. He was pinballing all up here yesterday.
Yeah.
This is a much better run.
56.89. He did a 57.09 and a 57.65. So the best of his campaign here.
And he jumps a spot as well.
Yeah. Ah, he got ahead of the Aussies. Okay. So he got ahead of Cam Scott.
But hey, shout out Tony. That was a really good push. Got himself into the mid-20s there. Is that right?
Yep.
Well,
5.25.
There you go. 16th ranked push.
Yep.
And yesterday, 21st and 27th. So a fine job for Tony and a much better drive for Jakub. I think some real positives there. That was where we thought, oh no, here we go. Is it going to be another rough ride? But he did some good stuff there. Another former brakeman in the front seat. Hoping to develop as quickly as possible, especially as we approach Milan next year.
Yeah. Well, Milan Cortina will be his, if he gets to go to the games, and it is a restricted entry, then that will be his experience games. There you go. All right. Now then, for Austria, Jakub Mandelbauer with Daniel Betschler on the back, being replaced by brother Martin. Sasha Stepan still doing the yelling duties at the top of the track.
We had a 5:30 getaway, so it was a pair of 28s yesterday, so relatively consistent from the boys. Yeah, it was a shame to see Jakub go over yesterday. This is a really talented young Austrian pilot. He'd been frustrated with that skid taking him into 4.
But it happens, and it shows that A, he's not got huge experience here in Lake Placid, and B, that he's still pushing it right to the edge, because that's where the speed is. You know, it doesn't inhabit the safe zone.
And also, it is not fun crashing here. And so to get back up, come here for second day, and give your best effort when you know you're not going to break into the top 20, you know, I think it shows great character as well, and great willingness to learn and develop. And
I'll tell you what, decent speed, 24th, 25th, he's the 30th sled down.
Through the danger zone.
A long way behind Jakub Prochaska, so he's not going to move up. But what's the run? It's a 56.27, and that is just a third of a second off his best. But he gets it down and completes the World Championships. And that's so important, you know, whether you're Chris Horn and think, okay, I could be top 10 here if it all goes well, or whether you know you're probably not going to get a final heat anyway. It's important to get back in and not leave the track with a crash as your abiding memory, especially as it's the last race before you go into the summer break.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for a developing pilot like this, so like this kid can drive. We've seen Jakub on the European circuit. He can definitely drive. He's had a lot of things, top 15s, top 14s, things like that, which is a great place to be on World Cup at this stage.
There you go.
And to put that to bed for your World Champs, a much better run.
Lots of love between these guys. There's the Aussies offering their congrats.
Good stuff, boys.
And then our final sled, Kitamat Palakai and Sitifon Dompriti from Thailand. Now, what a great story. This team has been effectively funded by the Legacy Foundation in Pyeongchang after the 2018 Games. And they have come in to the World Championships here in Lake Placid as, well, total unknowns to the Europeans. Definitely they've learned their trade also in North America.
Yeah, we were saying this yesterday. It's great to see more Asian nations. We've got phenomenal Asian tracks,
yep,
which are hopefully aren't going to be too difficult for us to get to with what freighting costs these days. But great to see more small nations coming through, more nations wanting to slide, seeing this is not, there's no barrier to the sport, anyone can come and do it. And there's a great, there's a brakeman on the back there who can run the 100 metres in 10.6 seconds, We've got some good athletes here.
The brakeman's 24 and he's 7 years older than the driver, yeah. So 17-year-old driver here. I mean, only just old enough to actually be allowed to drive a bobsleigh off the top of the track. Yeah. You've got to be 16 to do that. So you can see,
line round 10.
See how early he is in his career. Well, it was a flat line through 10. It doesn't give him a big boost in speed down the bottom, but they're going to complete their third heat here. Nicely run through the chicane. And again, if you're coaching guys that are this young and this inexperienced, don't put on big fat runners. Give them control. Give them confidence. Let them finish the World Championships. Give them that confidence booster that they can do it in a big arena. Yeah, 59.04, all 3 runs completed without the use of their helmets. Absolutely. but that's absolutely valid. You've got to learn. You learn nothing by putting on fat runners and crashing. Other than what you already know, it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I would dispute that slightly at Placid. The helmets have been in use from corner 4 to corner 10. But other than that, no, you're bang on, and they... Nice.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing to see. And this is a strong, muscular, large athlete sport. These guys are still, they'll be developing. This is a 17-year-old kid on the front handle, They've got a lot of time to develop.
And he doesn't come from track and field, and he doesn't come from decathlon. He's a former roller skier. So, he comes from a sport where light and agile is really, really useful, and big and strong, less so. But it's the start of a program for Thailand, and what a great thing to see for so many of these minor nations coming in. For the big ones, well, it is the big dog who leads after 3 heats. Francesco Friedrich and Alex Schuller by the massive margin of 600ths of a second. It's 200s, isn't it, in the monobob this afternoon. The lead battle overnight. 600s. Well, we haven't had a dead heat for gold in the World Championships for 2-man since 1931, which was the first. So, wow. Could it be? I mean, it could easily be. And Chris Horn, 14th, is that a top 10 finish for vindication? I think there's every chance there might be. There will be a lot of sorting out. The final sled to go will be Brazil's Edson Bindilatti and Edson Martins. They will actually go off first as we go 20 down to 1 in our final heat. And our remaining 11 crews, I'm sure, will be watching trackside, watching, learning and cheering on their friendly rivals in the changing rooms. Well, that's it for our 3rd heat of the 2-man World Championships. We will be back in the 4th and final run, and that will be at 12:30 local, and because we are now on daylight saving, that is 16:30 Greenwich Mean Time. 12:30 local Eastern, 16:30 GMT. From Greg Hackett, Martin Haven and the rest of the crew, we'll see you then in a little over an hour and a quarter.
Without Stu. And we've got these little bits about the track. Stu bits, we call it. It Stu's up at the start. So this brand is the first one.